I don't find so many that can see the big picture. And the big picture is that there is one state in this region under a consistent threat of elimination. And instead of supporting it and understanding the big picture is Iran as the biggest ally of Russia in its war against Ukraine. But and Europe is very decisive to support Ukraine, but somehow they don't understand who are their allies and who are their foes. And it's not only a problem, a European problem, it's worldwide. And I think we are in a very critical time in our history with a very strong authoritarian axis trying to change the world, endangering the world order, and not enough leaders understand the connections between the scenes and the fact that we are moving very rapidly to a very dangerous world.
All right, guys. So we have the Israeli foreign minister here making Gideon Sar, I believe his name is. So he's making some claims that we're in a critical time where authoritarian allies to who we know to be China, Russia, Iran, North Korea are aligning against what we would know as the Western Bloc or Israel in the West. Israel likes to mix in with the West, but they're completely antithetical to Western values. And so Israel, and I've heard this several times from Israel, which is, it's always being overstated. Oh, we are defending not only Israel, but we're defending Western civilization, right? And that's sort of the claim to appease, the West and be, oh my God, we have these authoritarian communist dictatorship thugs who have familial governments who have been in power and they don't give anyone rights. You can't even use the internet in some of these countries. We've heard that whole spill coming from these guys, and that there's a threat to sort of change the world order to what, so they would lose power. Now, the ironic part about this whole situation is, Israel and America in general are controlling the West through pretty much like an ecosystem of financial elitists that have formed their own ecosystem, and they're kind of responsible for, you could say, America, Western Europe, and Israel's foreign policy decisions geopolitically, and in general, who rules some of these countries, right? Because we saw that whole coalition of, when Israel got attacked, you had the people on the ground are like, no, we don't want to go to war with Gaza, and why is Israel funding? Why is Israel exterminating people in Gaza? Why is there a genocide? Why is there a concentration camp there? And all of a sudden, you had world leaders and people, these like puppet governments that we found out later on, are all installed all over Western Europe. You can't even be in charge of a country there without getting these people's approval. So, and I think Putin said this, he made a claim before. He said that the president campaigns on one thing, but then when he gets into office, right, all the good things that the U.S. president said that he was going to do, a group of guys wearing black suits and a blue tie come in and change all that shit up, and pretty soon you find out that whatever the president was saying is not being implemented, and that there's this like shadow government of these elitists that are implementing all the foreign policies, everything to do with making monetary policy decisions, the Federal Reserve and all that. We can get into all that and how it's privately owned. And so now you have a situation where you have China, North Korea, Russia, Iran. These are countries that don't have what we refer to as a Rothschild banking system within their countries, where they're generally involved or are dealing with the kind of the international consensus on what people consider like the universal currency, right? Which is the dollar, and how things go universally. So these are the outliers. And so what happens with some of these countries is they become demonized as the enemy, right? And they become these authoritarian figures. There's movies made about them to demonize them so that people in the Western world are like, oh, okay, Putin bad, Xi Jinping bad. But within those countries, you find a completely different story, right? You travel to China, you travel to Russia, and these places are like, oh my God, man, like, these people are fucking, they love their leaders, they love their governments, they love their country. They're true patriots, all right? So there's a clash of civilization that's happening, and October 7th was really just a minuscule, I guess, eye-opening event that kind of opened everyone's eyes to all of this shit, right? Because people started connecting the dots, and all of a sudden there's this massive like PR campaign where people in the West were being flooded with anti-Israel rhetoric that usually, like, most of the Western world was ignorant to, right? They don't know what's going on. They can't even point some of these countries on the map, right? It's like, oh shit, we didn't know that AIPAC and all these people have $100 million to spend $100 million a year bribing our politicians. Wait, what? We didn't know about that shit. So there's this all grand awakening, and there's all these clowns that just found out about this last year. And, they're over here on, talking it up on social media like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Oh, let's make But, I mean, real ones have already been knowing, like, this shit's been going on for years, right? This is going on for at least a century. So now you have a situation where they're trying to set this thing off, right? Because the only way that the West and its allies, a.k.a. the guys in the suit and the blue tie, could maintain their hold on the world order and on global economic dominance is to militarily have the foes, the evil, the axis of evil they call, submit to their will. So they have to militarily get their way with some of these people. So it's not a matter of stopping the growth of China, because that's impossible, or stopping the growth of Russia, or Putin just had a phone call with Trump, and Putin just shut the phone on Trump. He's like, man, get the fuck out of here. I don't want to talk to you, fucking weirdo. You don't make the decisions, right? And Trump came out and said, yeah, Putin, does it look like he doesn't want to stop? I had a really bad phone call with him. Yeah, the guy... you tried calling, and the guy just, he hung the phone up. He's like, all right, go worry about the big, beautiful bill and suffocating 10 million people with healthcare cuts. So you have a situation where they're trying to set this thing off, right? Because the neocons and these warmongers and these military-industrial complex representatives, and we know who they are. We could start naming a few of them, I guess. John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, Lindsey Graham. These clowns who are Mark Levin and all these weirdos. These people understand this fact that you can't maintain dominance unless you militarily make these countries submit militarily. So the issue with that is, you have a country like Israel that is trying to drag America into this war with Iran prematurely. I have to say prematurely, right? Because you have Russia, who's absolutely valiantly, they're killing it in Ukraine, right? Ukraine's not even getting American aid anymore, by the way. They're sending all the anti-defense missiles to Israel. So they sacrifice Ukraine. And NATO ain't doing shit. And so China is just kicking back, watching how everything plays out. They have a military of millions of people, like, just waiting for the call. They're just hanging out. They're observing how the United States conducts warfare. They're observing how Israel conducts warfare. They're observing what's going on in the world. North Korea, North Korea is sending soldiers, North Korean men, to the front lines with Russia. Okay, just to show you how. And I've heard reports that they would do the same for Iran. So these people are, again, knowing that this is going to happen. And then, so that's one thing. Militarily, these people are prepared. And everybody got nukes. Nuclear weapons shit is just bullshit. Because if Israel decides to start using nuking, Iran could definitely get one from Pakistan, from Russia, from North Korea, drop one off. I think there's a statement that Kim Jong-un was like, well, we'll nuke Israel if they nuke Iran. So the nuclear weapons shit is just bullshit, right? They want regime change in Iran. And what the West is trying to do in this desperate attempt of trying to maintain global economic dominance is to swiftly get the Middle East under their control. That's why there's so much media attention on the Middle East. That's why there's so much talk about what's going on in the Middle East, because the West's last desperate attempt at combating China's influence is controlling the Middle East, especially Iran, because it's bordering China. So Iran is their last. So for those people sitting in the back, these clowns being like, "Oh, China's not going to get involved in with Iran. Russia's not going to allow Iran, support the Iranian regime." They have to. That's the whole thing. They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice, right? Because the Iranian regime's the last line of defense for a U.S. base being installed on the border with China. So they have no choice but to support Iran. That's why if America gets dragged into this war with Iran, they're going to be fatigued militarily, okay? Because it's not going to be easy. And China and Russia get to test their little toys. I mean, China's already given Iran like the fighter jets, the ones that Pakistan used to slap India. By the way, India got smacked. So they're like, yeah, we'll give them to Iran. We kind of want to see how the U.S. conducts warfare. We kind of see what they would do when they creep up on the Persian Gulf. Because that's going to have us prepare for some bullshit, So, again, man. Oh, and not only that, there's the financial aspect. You have BRICS. All right? So, I want, people need to stop acting like that this is just some situation that's going on between a bunch of Arab countries and Israel being the only lone Jewish state. And no, this is much bigger than that. This is much bigger than that. Okay. That's why, and by the way, Netanyahu is a representative of these people. He's trying to fight on the behalf of the West. That's why he doesn't mind getting Israel fucked up. He doesn't mind. He's pretty much bargaining. He's he didn't, nothing's changing. This guy's, not even Iran's missiles that damn near wrecked the entire country is making this guy budge, because they don't care about that. Their whole, their whole thing is to make sure that their Western elitist financial clowns, these warmongers, maintain power in global economic dominance, which that's what it's about, man. It's West versus East. West, and it's slowly gonna start becoming that, as the months go by, which could you know, again, it could trigger World War III, which everybody's been talking about. We might even be in it now. We don't know. There's no World War II never had a set day. It was just shit started happening, and then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, it's World War II. Okay, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, man. Like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, know that it's a battle of it's East versus West, man. That's just it sums it up right there. Okay.